in order to keep
Ooh.
the kids safe. In terms of the accessibility question, all playgrounds are required to be accessible. So when we are looking at different structures, there is usually what's called a transfer point at the base of a structure, which is the place at which an individual with limited mobility, such as in a wheelchair, would be able to be placed onto the structure and out of their wheelchair. There are also requirements for any specific structure, a certain number of play elements that must be ground level, so that even if you could not get onto the structure itself, there would still be things you could do from the ground. So there's definitely, you know, a lot of existing requirements out there that both the manufacturers of these structures and we would be seeking to fulfill. And part of what we're hoping to put out there is, you know, asking in terms of proposals, asking for the most accessible features possible and the most inclusive features possible.
Okay, so thanks, Sarah. And it would be, again, great that somewhere in the plan it specified that we were going to meet with these safety standards. You know, the commission has done a fantastic job of going out and researching this stuff, and we are required to have it be in the public record, you know, what those things are. And I think you've done the homework. We just need to write it down as part of the plan and have that go. So thank you.
So Jed, would you want that shown on the plans in the form of a note in the general notes that are under a playground category that we can describe the depth of the wood chips and the ASTM
the safety standards that it's meeting.
The safety standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be a very acceptable way to do it.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure we do that.
And that the structures that are going to eventually be built comply with ADA standards per some ASTM or whatever governing body you.
Yep. Okay.
That it, I don't want to speak out of turn, Jed. Is that about right?
I'm just trying to think. I don't know what got us onto the discussion there on all that safety stuff. I'm trying to transition from our discussion to calling on the public. I want to hear what the public's got to say. And I guess, so I think we're there.
There's a few more things in
Jim's that's where we were. Jim's listing. Okay, good. Thanks, Wayne.
All right. The application next in Jim's comments or the application should include a statement by a licensed professional engineer indicating that the plan is in conformance with all applicable regulations. And he notes of particular concern is determination that the project does not negatively impact the availability of floodwater storage for a 100-year event. Inland Wetlands did approve the project based upon the original plan. And that is part of the record here. And I don't believe that the plan dated 1/6 makes any substantial changes to the initial plan that Inland Wetlands reviewed. Jim
So
goes on.
Joe, would you be able to put that
Joe's
comment in about the no
Yes.
reduction in the water storage area?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
We actually increased the storage by a minor amount. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Okay. Section 11.2 of the zoning regulations detail the bulk or dimensional requirements of all development. We already discussed the pavilion and how it falls within the front yard setback. Eric addressed that for the commission to consider. We talked about stormwater management. Jim did not have an opportunity to review the lighting plan. Let's see. And that is about it. But Jim does have some suggested motions here, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't want to
su-
get into that.
I'm not
That's
sure.
when we close out the public hearing and go to deliberation.
Right, I'm not sure I was gonna say, we're not sure we're there yet.
Okay? No, I think that that wraps up what Jim had there. So at this point, I'm going to try and run through the list of attendees that I see here for public comment. And if you have anything to say, now is a good time to do that. And so, Pieta, I know you've commented a couple of times. You're probably here from the committee that put together the thing. Any other comments that you'd like to make?
No, thank you. We just appreciate the time of the Planning and Zoning Committee and look forward to seeing this project through to fruition.
Okay, Brandy,
Oh, hello.
hello.
Yeah, I've been helping on the committee also on the playground committee. I also have a local business in town. I'm the home daycare on Long Hill Road. So this is an important project to me and I think to all the young families in town. We have been talking, God, I don't even know, 15, 20 years about trying to do this. So we're very excited about it. All the families I talk to in town are very excited about it. So yeah, we're just ready to get going on it and get it all in place. And
Okay,
we appreciate everything. Thank you.
Celeste,
Thank you, Jed. Yeah, I just think that this is a wonderful project for the town, and thank you to the committees for their hard work and dedication and time that they put into researching this and proposing this. I agree with Brandy. I think this will be a wonderful addition to the town. We have lots of new families in town, and I think this will be great. And looking forward to playing some pickleball and hanging out there soon. So I think this is great. Thank you.
next up is Eve.
Good evening. I'm Eve. I live on the corner of Long Hill and Riverside. I was just curious if there's going to be any security cameras or anything installed at the new proposed pickleball fields.
Christine, you want to
So
address
we
that?
we would like to have security that
It's
is
definitely one of our goals. We are trying to figure out there are different ways to set up security, and it usually needs to feed back to the resident state trooper, and we're trying to figure out how that would where the cameras would reroute the information back. It wouldn't be like a standalone type camera unit that you could set up in your yard, because someone would have to go down there and check and rewind, the tapes daily. So we're trying to figure out if the feed, how to get the feedback to the resident state trooper, or even through the Public Works building across the river. So we would really like to have that in place, just to make this, to keep this area as beautiful, and just to make sure everybody's using it in a responsible way.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Hank, any comments for us on this? Did we satisfy your concerns in the letter that you sent us?
Believe so. I had to step out, so I missed a little bit of it, Jed. So the only question I had is, I heard that it was, it was shielded, dark sky compliant. But as far as the type of lighting, the warmth of the lighting, do we manage to fall within that 4,500 to 5,700 or so kelvins?
I don't know that I saw that on the plan, and so we'll have to take a look at that. I don't know the answer to that, Hank. I
Okay.
saw some numbers there, but I don't know what those numbers meant.
So Hank, I can answer that. So
Okay.
the specific lighting detail sheets that we got have multiple options for that. So when we specify it, we would specify an LED bulb or bulbs for usage that are in the correct range.
Great. And then the only other comment I had is, I think to follow up on something, Jed, that you were talking about the height of the poles. I think I heard 30 feet.
Yes.
I don't know what the standard is, so I'm less conversant on that, but I would certainly weigh in that obviously the lower the better, because you're going to have less throw, to the periphery, beyond the courts. But I think as long as we maintain that high percentage of the lighting maintained on within 35 feet of the courts and so forth, you're good. But I think that's worth exploring, what the height options are.
Okay, thank you, Hank.
Yep.
Next person on the list is Jeremy. I think you're probably here with John. I don't know if you had any comments you wanted to make at this point, Jeremy?
No, I'm here for the POCD discussion. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Catherine Hutchinson?
Yes, thank you. My only question is to whether or not the proposed plan, particularly with regard to the play area, anyone has consulted with the town's insurance carrier to make sure that they're not going to require something that either hasn't been covered here, or that they might want to have to change their plan in order to be compliant with what the insurance company might require.
Christine, I'll go back to you as kind of the leader of the group there. Was there any discussion on that? Sounds like a good point to check.
That is a great point. We have to look into that. I don't know if it would follow
Under the same categories as the playscape that is currently at the Andover Elementary School, if it would be under that umbrella, or in addition to. We'll have to look at the town's policy, but that is an excellent point. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
You're welcome.
So I can partially answer that. The town uses KERMA, which is a members-based municipal insurance program. And it's basically a loss-based program. So there, in something like this, we would work with them in terms of hazard mitigation, which we do for a lot of things. But they never tell the town you can or you can't do anything. They just have their risk management review whatever it is that you're proposing to do. But our rates only go up if we have actual accidents that are reportable claims.
So was there something in there that we needed to check with because we're adding this additional liability, or do you think we're good to go there, Eric?
I mean, I could certainly put a note into our KERMA rep, and, I would actually think the pickleball courts probably have as much liability as the playgrounds. Because you think about all the residents that are aging and that are more susceptible to injuries, who are now going out and doing things to make themselves healthy. There is definitely an increased accident risk, but but I would bet that the vast majority of towns in the KERMA that are covered by KERMA have both multiple playgrounds as well as pickleball courts and other athletic facilities. They've not had a problem with any of our previous recreational offerings. So I don't think it would be an issue, but I'm happy to reach out to KERMA.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. I think it is a good point just to make sure we're not probably the only result would be your bill would go up a little, but I don't know.
But I also don't necessarily think that's a zoning issue.
I don't, yeah, I don't think it is either. I just thought it was something that we probably want to take a look at.
Jed, this is Catherine again.
Yep, go ahead,
My
Catherine.
thought being is that I know when the church came and did, insurance company came and did its annual review and looking at the church property, that was one of the things that they had called to our attention and required that we do very specific things in order to have the coverage. I would just hate to see the project that's under discussion tonight go forward and then find out that the insurance company was going to require something in addition to it with regard to the liability insurance that the town has. Just a suggestion for try to get everything taken care of before the final approval or whatever, if that's what's going to happen, that every base be covered.
Understand and appreciate the comment, Catherine. We owe it to ourselves, whether, even though it's not the zoning issue, the commission that put together the plan owes to work with Eric to make sure that we're all okay there.
Now, my thought being that the plan that if it's approved, is not going to cause problems with the insurance. They could be taken care of while this process before planning and zoning is going forward.
Yeah,
That's it.
okay.
Just say, I'm trying to.
I see what you're saying. If
Yeah.
there's anything we need to add to the detail to make it so that we're in good shape. Yeah, okay.
Just a suggestion.
So, thank you. Anything else, Catherine?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Next person, Mary Ann Guile.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm just waiting for the other portion of the
Okay.
meeting.
Very good. Sarah, do you have any other comments for us?
I don't think so. I just wanted to say, as someone that, grew up in Andover and has now returned to raise my own family here, I really think that having an area with a playground and the pickleball courts and the pavilion will just be a tremendous asset to the well-being of the community, both physically and in terms of, social and emotional health. And we know that that's an area where a lot of people have been struggling, and that bringing people together and bringing people together outdoors is just going to be a tremendous asset for our town. So I really hope that we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And Shannon?
Well, Sarah almost took away my thunder, but I'll add some things. First of all, Jed, thank you to you and the commission for all of your time this evening and your consideration. Really appreciate it. As someone who was on the committee dealing with the soccer field development, when we were dealing with that grant, I was so pleased that we got this other grant because ever since that time, as Brandy kind of alluded to, we very much have wanted to put a playground in. And when we had our first meeting of this committee, the number one priority was getting a playground. As everybody who's on here knows, who has had any kids in town, the only playground that now exists is at the school. And while school is in session, there's no other place to bring kids in Andover to play on a playground. So that's been a top priority. And as Sarah just mentioned, we wanted to try to appeal to the entire town. So to provide a social place while the pavilion is there, the pickleball courts for us aging community who can still get around a pickleball court. And then I think it was really important, something that a lot of us came to. Similarly, the only basketball court that's outdoors is at the school as well. So instead of creating a fourth pickleball court, we thought it would be great to have that area available as an area where kids could play while parents or grandparents play pickleball for basketball or for other sports. to try to be an all-encompassing area. So I'm on the committee as an alternate. I've really been pleased with all of the work that we've done, and our chairs have done a fantastic job. Christine's knowledge has been invaluable. So I really hope that the town sees the importance of this project and lets us go forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. And I think those were the only people that that I see on my listing here. The names popped around a little bit. Is there anybody out there that I missed?
Hey, Jed,
Okay. Yep.
it's Wayne. One thing I neglected to bring up on the lighting is the hours of operation. And I know Hank had some recommendations in concerning migratory birds. But does the recreation, the Andover Recreation Committee have any thoughts, or do they have any thoughts concerning hours of lighting that should be considered?
Well, I thought I heard the discussion of 9 or 10, which fell within Hank's concern of 11, I think. So
Right.
that's where we're at.
Okay.
Yep. So I think we got that covered from Hank's concern anyhow.
Very good.
Wayne, I think also people
Will be during the heat of the summer, when the days are really hot, people might be waiting till after dinner to go out and play, but it's not dark in midsummer until after 8 o'clock. So it might be a 2-hour window that they're on, whereas in the spring or the fall, as the nights are starting to get warmer and people are starting to play outside again, it's getting dark at 7 or 6:37, 7:30. They might go on a little bit earlier, but we want to cap the end time. So spring and fall might have a little bit more of a duration, but in the summertime we'll have the smallest duration that the lights will be coming on.
My thoughts were that the committee would have a better feel for the pickleball enthusiasts and when they might want to be using the pickleball courts than someone like me.
Well, we do, I mean, in
In the heat of the summer, they are waiting till after, they're either playing early in the morning and they're trying to wrap up before 9 or 10 a.m. just so they're not out when the sun is really high. And then usually later in the afternoon as the sun's starting to go down and the air is a little bit cooler. I think it's a day by day. But I do see a lot of people in the summertime playing very early in the morning, 7 o'clock to 9:30, 10, maybe 11 if it's not too hot. And then through the afternoon, there's usually a break and then a pickup around dinner time or after dinner.
And that is a discussion that's required to be part of the lighting plan. So we need to have that, fleshed out a little bit when we get to talk about that. At this point, Hank, did you have a comment there? I see your name popped up.
I just wanted to note that the timing, which was no lighting from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. really was in 2 migratory windows. The summer is outside of those windows. So if folks were there earlier or later in the summer months, June through early August, they'd be fine. Because the migratory windows are August 15th to November 15th and April 1st to May 31st. So basically you've got June through August 14th where, the timing is really not a big issue.
Okay, thank you, Hank. So at this point, I think that's all the discussion that we wanted to have on the plan for tonight. The next up on the agenda is close or continue the public hearing. And my sense would be we need to continue the public hearing. The lighting plan needs a little more work on it. The setback issue, my sense is that Eric came up with a creative solution. If that's what the town wants to propose, they should propose that as part of the formal plan. And we'll have a chance to think about it and discuss that at our next meeting. And then the third thing that I've got to wrestle with is I noticed that we started the recording a little late, very late in the public hearing. And I think what that might require us to do is have that initial part of the public hearing over again so we can have that discussion and be part of the public record. I'm not an expert on that. We haven't had the problem of not recording the thing in the past, but I think that's the way that's going to end up going.
Jed, that was, I ended up hitting record. I didn't notice until later that the meeting hadn't been auto recording. And then I happened to notice up at the top that it wasn't set for auto record. So I switched it on. So I apologize for that.
Nope, I understand. And I didn't back you up when you know, the little banner normally signs up there that recording in progress. And so, but it is a requirement that, I think it's a requirement that the public hearing be recorded. And so I'll have to figure out the best way to do that. But between those three issues, and it gives us a chance to, since I think we'll be going through the drawings again, if we have an updated drawing at the start of the next meeting, you know, we can talk about the changes that were made and discuss those and get that all in the record. But I think with those couple of issues, you know, we cannot close out the public hearing tonight. So I intend to continue the public hearing at our next meeting on February 18th. And if all goes well, we would be able to make a decision following the closure of the public hearing at that point. Any commission members have any comments or concerns about that way ahead? Okay, so at this point, we adjourn the public hearing for tonight to be continued on February 18th, I think is our next, February 18th, next meeting date. Next up on the agenda is call to order the regular meeting. It's 8:40. I'll call the meeting to order. And I'm looking for we are still recording, are we not, John? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Roll call and seating of alternates. I see all the regular commission members present. I don't see any alternates here tonight. So the regular commission is here. The alternates are absent, and we will seat none of the alternates. Changes and additions to the agenda. I have none. Public communications limited to concerns not slated for the public hearing. Anybody from the public have any comments at this point? Okay, up new business. First is the application of the town of Andover on the pickleball courts, playscapes, etc. And we will not be deliberating that item tonight. We'll wait until after we close the public hearing at the next meeting. Review and comment on the budget for the coming year. And John, if you can let me share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Let's see. It's been so long since I did this, I forgot. There we go. Okay. Yeah. I've got a couple of blocks. Okay, the blocks are gone away from where the business is. One of the concerns in our current budget is we have about used up the budget for the year for professional services, and that ends up primarily due to the legal proceedings on the gravel pit. And so I would like to think that we're about at the end of that, but we're probably not. And so I feel that for next year, we've got to at least raise the budget up from 6,500 to 10,000. I don't know that that's going to be enough, but legal things, as we knew when we started, are not cheap. So that was my recommendation there. Training. I'm hoping that all the commission members attend the Connecticut Bar Association training on March 22nd. That's the biannual training we have to do, so that if we do that this year, the training budget should not need very much money next year. And I lowered it to $150 just in case somebody's got some training that we need to do in there. And then the mapping, we've got a big mapping project going on right now, trying to fix up our zoning map. We're looking to take the money for that out of professional services. It was a bill of like $3,000, way more than we had for printing maps. So I left it standard $300 for mapping, and that would be printing out maps once we got them right. So that's what I would propose for our budget for next year. And I will make a motion to approve the budget as discussed.
I'll second that, Jim.
Thank you, Scott. Any discussion on the budget from anybody? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Ann?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Patrick?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get to the mute button fast enough. Is there any way we could print out those maps in-house at the town hall?
I don't know. Maybe we could. I'll check into it. But I'm sure that in the past, that $300 has gone to providing us some of those professional services that we end up overspending. So it's not like we don't get to take advantage of them. So I'd like to leave the number there. That's what we've done. And I'm sure we print out whatever we can, but that'd be that. So Patrick, your vote?
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion to approve the budget passes 5-0-0. Next up, let me stop my sharing. Next up is Hank, and apologize, we're running a little late tonight, but I think it was all good stuff. But Hank, your turn, you're on.
Okay, can I share screen? Am I able to do that?
Yep, you should be able to.
Well, let me. Okay, folks, see that?
Yep.
Let me, hold on, let me put it into slideshow mode. Okay, and I thank the commission in advance for allowing us to take up 2 sessions of your time. So I'll try to get through this. It'll depend, I guess, on the amount of questions you might have about any of the recommendations. So at the last meeting, we presented on the results of our open space analysis and the natural resource, and our process for the natural resource inventory. Based on that work, we have come up with some draft recommendations that we'd like to, for consideration over the next 10 years, as we plan on trying to achieve some of the goals associated that we've outlined for protecting our natural resources and for open space. So just as a refresher, we've looked at the recommendations in 3 broad categories: policy recommendations, which primarily focus on the open space plan; regulatory recommendations, which primarily address the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission regulations; and zoning regulations, in particular the ARD, the Rural Design regulations. And then a group we call management, which involves the work of the Conservation Commission, some of the work of Public Works Department, landowners in town, and the Andover Lake Association. And this really involves more non-regulatory. It's more about trying to promote and implement more best management practices townwide that assist with some of our natural resources. So quickly, for the policy recommendations around the open space plan, these are very similar to the recommendations that were made back in 2015 with the open space, which were basically to utilize the open space map and supporting data from the natural resource inventory when prioritizing parcels within open space corridors for protection through acquisition, transfer of development rights, or conservation easements. So basically, it's really to use that information to help prioritize areas that we might pursue for various easements or acquisition. Continue the fee in lieu of that's in place for open space where appropriate, and budget. We're recommending an annual budget of $50,000 if possible for the open space fund. And I know we've made gains in that area, which is good. Seek open space funding through state municipal cost sharing program, and coordinate open space goals with Joshua's Trust. Joshua's Trust is the land trust that really we fall within their catchment area. So there's opportunities for partnerships around acquisition of open space and working with Joshua's Trust to help provide support for acquisitions that we might pursue. State funding, usually they fund 2-year budgets that provide some matching funding for towns that are pursuing open space. So there's some good grant opportunities there. We made an attempt last year and we're pursuing that, but the property sold before we were able to actually submit the grant. We actually got to the stage of finalizing the grant and communicating with DEEP, but we never really formally submitted. Proactively engage landowners of critical undeveloped parcels within open space corridors regarding long-term conservation options. And this to me is a real important piece. Landowner relations are very critical to protection of natural resources. Regulations really only get so far. Really working with landowners is a critical piece, and a critical chunk of that is really looking at building relationships to help promote opportunities so that landowners understand the options that they might have should they want to preserve land as easements, or should they be interested in long-term protection of their properties. So that we're a strong advocate of building landowner relations and moving forward. And some of the roles that we're going to take within the Conservation Commission will be toward that goal. Utilize the natural resource inventory data and maps to guide various use of municipal open space. And we've already taken strides on that with some mowing recommendations that we can talk about. So really, these all address sort of policies to pursue managing our open space correctly, as well as potentially acquiring or protecting additional open space in a very strategic manner based on the information based on the open space that we have protected now, and based on the results of our natural resource inventory.
Hank, are you aware of any properties that we should be looking at now for open space acquisition?
Yeah, there's a few that periodically come up that we'll tend to keep our eye on and had discussions. I mean, there was of course there was the property along the Skunkamug River that mostly in the town of Coventry, but there's significant acreage in Andover, the old Times Farm camp. There was that property, but that was obviously I understand that's in process now of potentially reopening as a camp. I don't know all the details, but that was one. There's been, the Ladano property, which we made a significant effort to try to get an open space grant with the state to try to purchase, but was end up being purchased by a private individual before we could move on it. So there are some that we've mapped out. We need a process, I think, a little bit more proactively monitor as stuff goes up. And that gets to my point, Jed, of the proactive landowner relations.
Yep.
If you remember, we actually color coded all of those large parcels that are undeveloped within the open space corridors. And that's one of our goals, is to really start to build landowner relations there, to to try to get ahead of losing parcels.
Okay, thanks.
So those are really more the open space policy recommendations. I don't know if there's other questions about any of that, or if you would prefer me to just continue to go through the various regulation changes and other areas before we and ask questions at the end. Do you have a preference, Jed?
I think we should press on with your regulation changes.
Okay, well, we shall press on. So in the first ones that we're touching base on deal with the wetlands regulations. And in our wetlands regulations, section 1.6 currently lists areas of special concern. So we're recommending that list be updated to include cold water streams and vernal pools as important special areas. And we have more detail on these that we can submit, including the existing language and our specific recommended language changes, that we can provide. The second one is to expand the upland review area in section 2.26 to include the Hop River, cold water streams, and vernal pools to 300 feet. Currently, it's 200 feet. Most wetlands in town, the upland review area is 100 feet. Within those areas that are in section 1.6, those areas of special concern, it's currently 200 feet. So for example, around the Hop River, it's 200 feet. We're recommending that to expand that to 300 feet. The justification of that is that's consistent with the science of where the amount of land that basically you start to see what are called edge impacts that can occur within those systems. And just as a reminder, a 300-foot upland review area does not prohibit activity within that area. It just opens it up for review, for application and review. It's not a set buffer, for example. In the wetlands amend section 7.6D to include, the commission may require an animal or plant inventory of the wetland and or surrounding upland review areas. That's language that's in other towns' regulations, and it dovetails with the ability of the Wetlands Commission to be able to utilize the vernal pool data that was collected in the natural resource inventory. So if there was an application pending where they felt it was important to collect where we didn't have inventory data because it was on private land and we didn't have access, that the commission could recommend that data be collected as part of the information that they would use to review the project. Amend section 4.4 to require a notification of timber harvest form. Currently, that is one of the areas where we see a lot of variability, and we're relying on the applicants or the contract foresters to determine whether there's a wetland, they're within an upland review area, or whether there's a vernal pool as part of the timber harvest. And what I'm seeing is that there's wide variability on what the commission is actually receiving for applications. And that's an area I think that we need to strengthen the review potential. Timber harvest is a by right activity, but the by right is determined by the commission. So the commission, basically makes that determination if that activity is by right. So I think it's important to look at getting more advanced notification of timber harvest associated with our parcels. And you'll see that show up a little bit later in one of the other regulations we're recommending.
Hank, could I tell you something about
Yes,
that?
Scott, you certainly may.
The state requires every town to be notified of any timber harvest. Just, that's just another.
Whether or not it encroaches on a wetland?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the timber harvest, the town's supposed to be notified.
Yeah, there is a formal timber harvest form, and that's what we're recommending sort of adopting to be able to utilize to, as part of that review process. And that could be jointly used with the vernal pool map and the wetlands maps to determine whether there's the harvest falls within the harvest plan falls within an area that would potentially require a review. The other thing it does is it provides because it's proactive in that case, it allows it gives you an ability to promote best management practices. So the goal of it isn't necessary to restrict timber harvests. It's really to be able to promote more best management practices associated with those and make sure that we're catching all of those that are potentially impacting some of the wetlands, priority wetlands in town. So to move a bit to zoning regulations, the ARD 5.5.7.5, we're recommending replacing existing 75%, removing 100% instead of 75% of the wetland acreage from the calculation for building allowances. Under ARD 5.5.7.1, we're recommending replacing 40% with 50% as the minimum amount of open space set aside. In the ARD 5B.01 and 5.5.2a, replace parcels of 10 acres or greater with 5 acres or greater to be the default development method for open space subdivision. In other words, we're trying to promote more within our open space areas in those ARD. We're trying to promote more open space, preservation through that mechanism.
Would that be just within the corridors you have, or is that everywhere?
Right now, this would apply to wherever you have zoned ARD. A discussion could be had is to limit it within corridors. Our concern is primarily within the corridors because those are the areas that we've, sort of mapped and recognized as was done back in 2015. We have more robust data now, but as areas that are the priority for conservation of natural resources and for open space. So those are the areas where we have the highest priority for achieving those goals. So again, those are, discussions I think that need to be had. And Jed, as I mentioned, this is something where I think, to me, collecting the information up front, you then move forward over the next 10 years of, doing the work with the different commissions to vet this and make your changes or make your adjustments going forward, with the goal of, at the end of the 10-year period of the POCD, having achieved various goals. So these are good, those would be good discussions to be had.
Okay.
Let's see where I am. 16.42. Replace 50 feet with 100 feet regarding distance from wetlands and watercourse for sand and gravel excavation. Again, that comports more consistently with the science. As there's been more research on impacts from various land uses. Zoning 5.5.3 and ARD 5.5.9.5. We're recommending including Conservation Commission in the advisory role for planning and open space control. Currently, the Conservation Commission is not listed in that regulation. We're recommending that the commission be listed as part of the review process. This is a big one. Consider establishing a floating or overlay zone encompassing the Hop River and craft appropriate setback regulations. And this comports to Public Act 21.29, which basically it pretty much mandated to zoning commissions to protect natural, one of the goals was to further protect environmental resources, especially water quality associated with navigable waters to Long Island Sound, which the Hop River would fall within, and many of our rivers and water courses in the state do. The Hop River that corridor is probably one of our greatest planning challenges in town because It is an area that is key, has primary, agricultural use is very strong there. There's good agricultural soils and a lot of farmland existing. Obviously, it's a major area for recreation with the Hop River State Park trail there and the various uses that are opportunities for recreation along that system, the fishing and so forth. Stuff we were just talking about earlier on the commission with the pickleball courts. It's also obviously the major transportation corridor runs along it, as well as one of the major areas for economic development. And it also sets sort of the scenic sort of trajectory for the town. So it hits on a lot of, I won't say competing interests, because oftentimes they're not competing, they can be collaborative interests. But basically there's a lot of land use plans for that corridor. So strategically, we feel that that really takes looking at this in a way that is more holistic and a more proactive planning approach to try to balance those land use to make sure that we don't, in our case, in our purview, we don't impact critical resources along there, but other folks would have other areas that they're interested in making sure that they're trying to realize, and that's the balance. And one way to get at that may be to look at that as an overlay zone and really drive our consideration of that corridor, because it's a very unique area within Andover. I'll go so far as I'll go a bit out on a limb here to say that I also think a future goal should be to look at an intermunicipal compact with Columbia and Coventry and Bolton to explore the possibility of that, looking at that Hop River corridor more collaboratively regarding some of these land use initiatives. I know there are some joint initiatives around the corridor, but to be quite frank, the natural resources effort that I've seen associated with them hasn't been what I think it needs to be to balance. And that's one that already the Hop River is under various pressures that are affecting its quality. And I think we owe it to ourselves to be able to really get on top of that, because it's such a valuable resources for many of the land use values that we hold in the town, including natural resources. And Public Act 2129, I think, gives us leverage and strengthens our ability to do that.
So Hank, can I ask you a question about that?
Sure, you can.
So it wouldn't, the phrasing you used was setbacks, but it could be a whole raft of overlay regulations about impervious surface, on-site infiltration, low impact development, whatever else, like just basically a bunch of water quality techniques and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. And then the difference too between the setback, it opens up it opens up a whole host of opportunities of how you would go with that. But one of the things to understand about the setback, which is different than, say, an upland review area. An upland review area is basically you're saying, say, the 100-foot upland review area for our wetlands means if you're doing a regulated activity within that, we're requiring an application so that our Wetlands Commission can review that and make a determination on whether there's significant impacts and offer advice on how to balance those and so on and so forth to try to, avoid or mitigate impacts to those wetlands. A setback is a little different. A setback is where you basically can say, hey, within 100 feet of the Hop River, you can't put a structure. So it's not a review thing. It's basically saying you're not doing this because that 100 feet around that is critical. So we would want to look at that and look at again, the world of tools within that overlay area that would enable us to basically protect the water quality and protect those other values from a recreational standpoint, from a transportation standpoint, a variety of different approaches to protect that system. We're looking at it strictly from the natural resources, but we recognize that there are a wide range of values associated with that. And to me, one of the challenges is these are often looked at as competing resources, and you often see it written that way. Balance, and I almost trap myself into it saying, balance the competing uses. They're not necessarily competing uses. The trick is what you're doing and where you're doing it within there and how you're doing it. And that requires being proactive on the review front so that you can basically effectively achieve your multiple goals. Yes, you're going to have occasions where you run you run at loggerheads at a particular site, but the reality of it's more like a bell curve, with most of the stuff falls within the middle, and with good proactive planning, you can achieve your multiple values through that effort, rather than looking back and saying, geez, we wish we had done that, or somebody complaining that, it's too late to go back now. So I think that gives us an opportunity, and I think that would be interesting discussions on, whether, we want, as a town, wanted to pursue that as a way to look at the Hop River corridor. And then finally, from management standpoint, and again, I'm a big fan of, you only can get so much through regulatory. It really requires a public investment and value of natural resources. And I believe that, we tend to have that in our communities. You talk with folks, they value the land. They value the land for a lot of reasons. And it's really all about the land. There's various roles that are played within that. So, for example, within the Wetlands Commission, utilizing the vernal pool maps and data collected in the NRA to guide relevant application reviews. And through that process, even though that's a regulatory process, oftentimes you can provide a lot of comments and recommendations that are best management recommendations, that are not necessarily a regulatory cudgel, but because you've now have an application before you, it gives you that opportunity to weigh in on a particular project. Public Works and the Conservation Commission. A good example of that is there was, when Kerry Crompton was on our commission over the past couple of years, there were a lot of conversations had with Eric and with Public Works about seasonal mowing recommendations around our municipal properties to support pollinator habitat, including the establishment of a monarch way station along the Hop River Trail that has signage and is monitored and maintained. And Marianne and Carrie were out there this year maintaining it. So that's a good example of looking at, and we've mapped certain areas that this is supportive, looking at best management practices that enhance pollinator habitat, which adds to beautification, which, ties to the trail. I mean, it's a good example of using good management, strategic management. The Conservation Commission, we are very interested in, have already begun this, promoting Natural Resource Conservation Service has a variety of programs that are available to landowners that will help pay for various management and enhancement of habitats, all the way from invasive plant removal to putting up bat boxes to agriculture. I mean, there's a variety to forestry applications. We've already held 2 workshops for landowners, but this is another good example of reaching out to landowners in a proactive way to promote best management opportunities based on their goals for their property, but also gives us the opportunity to inform them what we found through our natural resource inventory, resources they may not be aware of, and management practices they may not be aware of, but gives them opportunities and to fulfill some of their goals in a way that ties with natural resource goals within the town. But again, proactive. And then same with farmland protection programs to support the agriculture community. We already have some parcels in various agriculture lands. There are numerous agriculture lands along the Hop River. They serve multiple functions, both agricultural functions as well as prime habitat for many species, beautification. So there's best management practices associated with those that can be used that will not only continue with agricultural goals, but can now be, better support some of the natural resources goals about preserving things like biodiversity. A good example of that is the Hop River corridor. The Hop River supports a state and regionally significant population of the wood turtle. That's a state listed species that's currently under review by the Fish and Wildlife Service for listing under the federal Endangered Species Act. And that decision, it was due last year. Who knows when that will come down? But there are certain mowing practices that can that reduce injury and mortality to wood turtles that use hay fields and fields along the river system. And I can show you many images of wood turtles with big chunks out of their shell from mowing equipment. So there's ways that mowing practices that can reduce that. So as the Conservation Commission, that's one of the outreaches that we're looking at undertaking with our agricultural community in that strategic zone along the Hop River corridor. Provide information and guidance regarding notification of timber harvests and promote best management practices regarding wetlands and water courses, including vernal pools, to landowners. This gets back to the forestry form. Once again, if we are getting forms in now that to review for timber harvest, this provides the opportunity to engage with the landowner as well as the forester that's usually contracted by the landowner to be able to have a conversation on that plan and promote best forestry practices that support other goals beyond just timber harvest, the value of the timber harvest. And finally, coordinate with, we as the Conservation Commission, we feel we need to do a better job of working with ALMA on planning for conservation management of Andover Lake and its watershed. That's obviously one of our primary high value natural resources and recreational resources in town. That maintaining the water quality of that can be challenging. Jed, you alluded to that earlier, and we right now don't have I would say a collaborative relationship with them. We just haven't worked with them, but that's one thing we'd like to work more forward on, to look at best management practices and how we can help support protecting that resource. So these are, I think that's the last one. Yep. So those are a list of the recommendations that we've drafted. As I mentioned, we have a document that actually takes the language that we have, the existing language, and then, shows that, and then, shows what changes we would like to make. So as we go through the process with the Plan of Conservation Development, we would like to have that process consider these recommendations to utilize the information that we've collected as a way to implement the information that we've collected through our natural resource inventory and open space mapping. And I'll stop there because I know that's a hell of a lot.
Hank, have you had any discussions with Joe Wagner on those inland wetlands recommendations?
I have not on the regulation changes. I sat down with Joe when we completed the natural resource inventory. I sat down with Joe and at the town hall, and I gave him all of our files. I gave him the I showed him how to log on to the ArcGIS site and on ArcGIS public site, so he could access all of our maps, including the vernal pool map and our wetlands maps that we have there. I shared with him the complete spreadsheet database that ties to that for the vernal pools, which was the inventory, as well as the best development documents that our work was based off of, that the Wetlands Commission can use in reviewing applications that provide the best management strategies for working around those wetlands and vernal pools. So he has all of that information. I have not gone through the recommended regulation changes. I've had some sort of off the record conversations, when we were jointly reviewing, for example, a forestry application together, and I've given indications that, that we were looking at potential changes to certain areas of the regulations and certain policies, but we hadn't formally formulated them yet. So he's aware of some of it, but not all of the specifics. And he has all of the information. So the information could actually be being used right now.
Yeah, good. I think the recommendations are good. They're specific. And I think we'd actually have a good shot at actually doing them. So You know, what could be better than that? Is there somebody on Alma that you coordinate with?
We actually have two, there hasn't been, we have two new, and the names are going to escape me because it's been, I think Eric knows one of them. There are two new individuals who have expressed an interest, and Marianne probably could weigh in because she's been in contact with them. Two individuals who have expressed an interest in joining the commission, and one of them is a part of Alma.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, Alma does 2 meetings a year. One's normally in June, one's in October. And to have, you know, that liaison person, whether if they're on both commissions, that brings you the information. Otherwise, you could attend the meetings there and speak your piece. But I think that's an easy relationship to build.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one I think we need to do for sure.
Okay, commission members have any questions for Hank?
Timber harvesting, Hank, I agree with you, just to be a little bit more strict and, you know, some kind of, like guidelines, definitely, you know? I only mentioned to you that the state requires anyone that's harvesting timber to notify the town, in addition to what you were saying. You know, those notification forms are out there. I think the state is rewriting the timber harvest notification form so it's a state form. So all those things should be in your regulations that, you know, require all that stuff.
Yeah, that would be just like, you know, the building permit gets routed to the ZEO to make sure that there's no zoning issues in there. And that's just a workflow issue that we need to get, but that makes all the sense in the world.
Yep, that's exactly right, Jed. It's a workflow. It's basically just and it gives you a proactive look at it. Yep.
So I'll go review the recommendations that you had for, you know, the zoning regs, but they all seemed, they all consist, they seem to support the directions that I'd like to go. I assume, you know, most of the other commission members would too. And I think those are easy changes to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think it supports the direction when, you know, we went back and looked at both the 2015 Plan of Conservation Development as far as it related to open space and natural resources. You know, I think we're building on what was done then. And I think when you look at the regulations, what you did with the ARD, especially, you know, there's, you know, we're building on work that's been done. You know, so so it makes sense to me.
Okay, and I know we want to get with you, John, and I, and whoever else you want to, you know, talk about the way ahead there. We're not quite ready to sit down with you with our zoning map. That's not proceeded quite as fast as I was hoping, but we're improving that. And one of the steps we want to do before we agree with the zoning zones that we have is we see where your, you know, highly desirable properties are to protect, and we make sure we're not doing something untoward there. So I'll get with you and John here at some point soon, and we'll figure out when we can get together to do something like that.
We look forward to it.
Okay.
And we thank you for your consideration and, you know, for working with us.
Thank you, Hank and Marianne. Marianne, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
No, all set. Just, when do you expect she'll be ready to meet with us to start proceeding with some of the logistics?
Well, I am thinking that, you know, I got to find out with John's schedule a little bit, but Thursday mornings seem to be open for me, and we get together with John. I don't know how that works for you and Hank at all, but I would hope that we get something, you know, early February.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else?
Nope.
I don't.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jed, hi, it's Leanne.
Yep.
That was, I would hope that when you're making arrangements to meet, that anything that's done would come back to this commission. It almost sounds like it would almost have to.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like-
Yeah, once
Yeah.
we get,
I think,
once we get the chapter, you're gonna get to, review it, weigh in on it and all that stuff. We'll have more discussions on it. We're just trying to figure out how to go from Hank's slides to a chapter that we can look at.
okay, I wasn't sure exactly what was gonna happen after you know, if you schedule, as you were starting to say, some morning meetings, what was gonna be the next step?
Yeah, well, next step is draft a chapter.
Okay,
And then once we get the draft, then we'll all get a chance to, look at that.
okay, good.
John, this is the only topic we have on plan of conservation and development. Did you have anything else you wanted to, you or Jeremy wanted to discuss here with us tonight?
No, just a heads up. Jeremy and I have drafted up a sort of an introductory chapter that kind of does an overview of what a plan of conservation and development is, what Andover's history has been, what the state plan process is, and some of the background demographics and trends that we talked a little bit about demographics and trends, probably 9 months ago, but this is sort of a put it in chapter format. We were doing a little bit of editing on it yesterday and today, and we will basically send it out probably this week, just for people to read through over the next month, and we'll look for editorial comments next time. And we're also finalizing a map that identifies key transportation improvements to accompany the Complete Streets chapter. So we're continuing to do some drafting and development in the background, and we'll distribute this stuff shortly. And then, Jed, again, as you said, our next step is to basically take the very excellent work that the Conservation Commission basically is serving up on a silver platter and convert it to the appropriate format for the POCD chapter. And then we'll have hopefully an economic development discussion in February.
February might get full, depending upon the public hearing thing, but we'll take a look at when we can get them teed up and ready to go here. Yeah, so please do send out that draft of the first chapter. It looks different than the last POCD introduction, and I think it's great. I like the flow of it, the tone of it, and I think it's good work. So, but
that's why I
everybody read
brought in
through it.
a real writer to handle this stuff.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, John, and thanks for coming, Jeremy. You have anything for us while you're sitting there?
No, I got lots of good notes, and I have my marching orders for moving forward. So thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, yep. Thanks for coming tonight, Jeremy.
Thank you.
The next up is the status of litigation involving the gravel pit. And the there's nothing earth-shattering there. I would like to pass on that subject just in the interest of time. There's certainly nothing for anybody to be concerned about. If there's an interest, I can, it'll be less than 10 minutes on our night, but, and I can give you a brief on where it stands. Should we do that, or, well, here's how we find out. I motion that the commission enter executive session to discuss pending litigation concerning the gravel pit. All commission members, town manager, prospective zoning agent, and town planner are invited to attend. Anybody want to second that motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Leanne. I'll call for a vote. Ann?
Don't need to. No.
No? Okay, Scott?
Go if everybody else agrees to. So that's a maybe.
That's a maybe. Okay, Patrick?
If we don't have any new information, then my vote is no for executive session.
Okay, well, there's no new information that won't keep till next month. Leanne?
Yes.
So it sounds like, Jed, you're the deciding vote.
Well, so I will vote yes. Leanne voted yes. Patrick was no, Ann was no, and Scott was a maybe. And I guess the motion did not pass, so we'll figure that this month. Approval of the minutes from December 2024. I'll make a motion that the minutes from our December meeting in 2024 be approved.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes?
I had a question. I think I can bring it up quickly.
Go
It's
ahead.
a question, not necessarily a correction. Under number 10, administrative reports.
Yep.
Again, this is a question. This may have happened this way. I just don't know. In the middle of the sentence, talking about it says, bike rack is behind ice machine, semicolon, stormwater management is required as part of approval. Is that correct? Does stormwater management have something to do with it, or, again, I'm just asking because it doesn't seem to fit, but I'm not sure that it's not part of the approval?
Stormwater management has nothing to do with the bike rack and the ice machine. And I don't recall what the storm management comment is, and Jim's not here to ask it, so I can't answer the question. Anybody else have any insight on that?
I think Jed, I think I can answer the question. I believe we're supposed to receive a report yearly from the property.
Okay.
And we have not.
That would be good. I was actually thinking over the course of the last month that I remembered they had a bang up system for taking care of stormwater, but it required maintenance. And so that's
Correct.
probably that. Yep. So I guess the way the comment is there, Leanne, is with the semicolon after ice machine. I understand that part. And then we need a stormwater management report. So maybe if we were to put the word report after management there, that would make that clear.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with the bike rack or the ice machine. So maybe if we add the word report, like you just said, and then maybe mention the yearly report that we're supposed to get, because even if we just add the word report, reading that, I still wouldn't be clear. It still, to me, implies it has something to do with the bike rack.
Okay.
Or, like if we just make it a little more clear that it's a separate item that we're supposed to get a yearly report that we haven't gotten. And stormwater management is part of that report.
So here's where I would propose the correction. Stormwater management report is required as part of approval. A yearly report is required and has not been received. Does that do it for you, Leanne?
I think just maybe make it a separate sentence. Is that okay? Because again, it is a separate item. If it has nothing
Yep.
to do with the bike rack, it's just reading that, you wouldn't know what you just said about, or what Wayne just said about a yearly report.
Okay, let me try again here. So we put a period after machine. And then we say a stormwater management report is required annually as part of the approval, and this report has not been received.
Yes. That sounds really good.
Okay? Got it.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to approve the minutes as amended. Ann,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Leanne,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, administrator report, zoning agent. Wayne, not the zoning agent yet, but well on your way. Anything for us? Yeah, you're muted, Wayne.
You're muted, Wayne.
There we go. All right. No correspondence was received. We've had one board member who's asked for training, the Bar Association training to date.
Come on.
Who's the one? Because I thought
you'd
he
have-
did and I thought I did.
Okay.
And
That's
Wayne,
it.
and Wayne, I also left Jim 2 messages.
Did you? Okay.
I signed up.
Yeah, I see Patrick's hands up.
All right. Okay.
I also, so
John, Patrick,
Scott.
Jed, Scott,
How about Leanne?
Leanne.
I signed up too.
Yep. Yeah, we knew you did. We had
Signed up too.
your name last time we talked about training over there.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad, my bad.
Oh, that's okay. Now, on the zoning agent, Leanne brought up the comment, first time Wayne showed up in a meeting, that we needed to vote for, I wasn't sure what we were voting for, but to approve Wayne.
To officially appoint him as an authorized officer to interpret and enforce your regulations.
Well, so I thought that's what it was gonna be, and I looked at our bylaws, and it says that the zoning commission votes on staff assignments. And so, not gonna do that tonight, but we'll do that in February too. And, so before he can be the official staff guy, now normally somebody would leave and it's not the best practice, but then after a while, somebody new comes, then the Planning and Zoning Commission votes to have that guy be the staff. This was a little different. We were fortunate enough to have a very nice long turnover period. And I think, Wayne is ready to take the reins here, probably by the end of February, early March, something like that. So we will discuss that more exact time frame at the next meeting, but Wayne's getting close to saying he's ready to hop in the saddle. And then we will vote at that point on making Wayne the staff zoning agent.
I appreciate your confidence, Jed.
Yep, I've enjoyed working with you, Wayne. There's you'll probably make a mistake or two. I make them all the time and don't like it when I do, but there you go. And but you've got an awful lot of good organization and workflow and that kind of stuff that you can bring to us, and I'm looking forward to that. Inland Wetlands Watercourse, we approved the playground application at our last meeting, and that was all that we had there. And Town Planner, John, anything else for us there?
No, I have nothing additional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So commission discussion. Anybody have anything up for commission discussion?
Hey, Jed.
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to make sure that the Economic Development Commission also gets some time with you and John, and we can go over some of our ideas for the future because it's really important that our small businesses are supported and that we make sure that we, with these new overlays, that we have spots secured for the growth of our town, places for these walkways to go, places for the town to be connected to, because that ultimately is going to draw in, ecotourism, agritourism, all that stuff we were talking about at the last meeting. We just need to make sure that we're all working together and make sure that we can. Well, the EDC will be coming up with our own recommendations, and I'm hoping in a nice PowerPoint because that'll make it a little more concise for our meeting, but
Okay, nope,
just wanted to make sure you don't forget about us.
we absolutely not.
All
And
right, thanks.
I think the process that we went through with the Conservation Commission is working nicely. It's not necessarily quick and easy, but it I think will result in a good product. It takes a little work, and we want to do the same thing. Now, I do think that the starting point there should be the Economic Development Committee come talk to us about your ideas, just like Hank did, and then we figure out what we need to do. But yes, it will necessitate some meetings with you and other folks from that, John and I, to figure out how to put the chapter together, and then we'll come back to the entire commission for
Thank you.
follow-on review and scrutiny there.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Any other commission discussion? Communications. So I do have one communications issue that to bring to your attention anyhow. And I don't know if you can see big book I got in the mail from over at Christmas time, talks about a cell phone tower going in over at the Hearst farm. And supposedly, there were a bunch of us in the town that were sent a technical report last June or July. And I don't recall getting it. Eric doesn't recall getting it. I haven't checked with the inland wetlands folks, but we had 60 or 90 days to give feedback on it. Obviously, first I knew about cell tower was getting this big report over Christmas. Did anybody happen to notice the public hearing notice in the River East last Friday?
I did.
I did obviously as well. And it was a big, long thing. The thing that bothered me about it was it did not reference Andover at all in the heading. So I don't know what made me actually look for it. I don't know if you could see it, but it's a big, long thing, and it just says hearing notice. And I said, oh, wow, that's about the cell tower. So I'm not sure how many people in Andover would have picked up on the fact, because most people, don't read those notices anyhow. In the fact that we're doing it, but we don't control cell towers. Siting Council does. And so I'm in communicating with our legal representatives. I don't plan on doing anything with that at this point. The plan sounded pretty good. It's kind of out there in the middle of nowhere. It meets our requirements as far as how high the tower can be. I just wanted to call your attention that if I saw that thing in July and didn't do anything with it, bad on me, and I'll try to watch for that stuff in the future. I don't get much planning and zoning mail, though, so I would have thought I would have got it. But that's that. And if you're interested, you can attend the hearing, look at the public hearing notice, and you can go. But I don't think we have much of a say over where they put cell towers.
Jed, this is Wayne.
Yep.
As far as I know, inland wetlands was not notified either.
No, I don't know what happened to it, but I didn't have the time to make a big stink over something that I sort of agreed with their plan, and so I was just gonna let that let that go at this point.
Could comment at the public hearing that we didn't get the technical report.
Yeah, yeah. If I was gonna do that, I would do that ahead of time and not roll that out there in the public hearing forum. And I did get some feedback from both Mark Branch and Alan about that, and yeah, they said there's not much we could do about it. So I said, well, why do we have those regulations? And he says, well, somebody might want to put up a radio tower or a ham radio tower or something. But, okay, we'll leave them there. That's all I have in the communication aspect thing. Miscellaneous. Anybody got a miscellaneous nickel? No. Okay. Public comment. We anybody left from the public here? Catherine Hutchinson always stays into the bitter end. Thank you, Catherine. Anything for us other than what you already provided?
No, thank you for asking, but I have no comment.
Okay, very good. With that in mind, next meeting is scheduled for February 8th. Oh. Nope, I don't think we need a motion to continue the public hearing. If we had to schedule a public hearing, we would need a motion for it. So I didn't goof that one up. We're good to go. Okay. Thank you very much. A little later than I was hoping we would go tonight, but I thought we had a good session talking about the playground. Just unfortunate that we forgot to record it. So we'll go through at least the discussion on the different drawings again next time, and that will be that. So
I have a quick question about Wayne and Jim.
Yep, go ahead, Leanne.
You said Jim wasn't available to be here tonight, and we're going to vote on Wayne, I guess, next month.
Yep.
Does that mean that are we still in like an overlap period where there's still both? I mean, we know Wayne is in place, but is Jim still in place? So, for example, if we want to communicate, we usually get things that say zoning, et cetera. The email address starts out that way. So if we communicate with them, will they both see it? Will they both see the same thing for the time being?
So Jim is still the guy. If you send something to zoning, he will probably get it. I think Wayne has been looking at the zoning email, for the last couple of days while Jim's gone. He's actually a funny story. Jim went, he's doing something fun, and he's doing it down in South Carolina, and he's not having as much fun as he has hoped because it's snowing down there. I think they got more snow down in South Carolina than we got up here. But
they got more snow in Louisiana than we have.
Yep, they did. So, but Jim is still the guy. This was just and he felt badly that he could not attend tonight. It was somebody else made his travel plans, and they didn't quite line up with our meeting schedule. And we talked about him going, and I said, "Go have fun." And so now he's down there making snowmen in Charleston.
But as far as Leanne, as far as the emails are concerned, I see the emails also.
Okay, thank you. That answers that.
Yep. Okay. So with that said, next meeting is going to be virtual, February 18th, and I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Leanne.
9:45.
Well, I got 9:46 now, but Ann,
Okay.
we'll call for a vote. Ann? Scott?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes 5-0-0 to adjourn. I only do that because some of you guys don't have your screens lit up. I can't see you raising your hand. Can't tell who's saying aye, so we do it individually. Not that I expect anybody to say, let's let this meeting go any longer.